Welcome to Windfell Farms. This is part 2 of the Bwine F7 drone review, focusing primarily on modes. All right, so I was going to show you the 6 different modes, or at least walk through them with you. But they're on the website. I'll put the link down there. And what I realized, there's really only one mode that I've used, and it's the basic GPS mode enabled, which brings the drone back home. If it gets out of signal range, runs low on battery power, or if you just lose sight of it, don't know where it is, you can hit the return to home and it will come back to your location and hover above you and then slowly descend, or you can take over manual controls at somewhere along that flight path. But there are 6 other modes. Image follow, which will track your movements around. It will follow you basically, and then GPS follow, it follows the controller. And then flying around, which you set up a center point and it flies around that center point. There's a virtual reality function which splits the screen if you have goggles, so you can go ahead and use that in VR mode. There's a route planning mode, which rain's kicking back up. The route planning mode, where you can lay out the coordinates on your GPS map, and then it will, and I believe that's inside of the Bwine controller. It's not on the controller, but in the app. And you lay that out, and then it will follow that coordinates and then return back to wherever you've set the destination. And then there's a gesture mode, where you can set up 2 fingers or a palm above your shoulder, and it will take a photo or start video in those modes. I don't use all of those, primarily because I'm just doing oversight of property at this point, or to kind of fly over some practice activities for baseball and stuff like that. So what I basically do is calibrate the camera, set the drone off, and then take controls manually, flying it using the iPhone app as the locator, so I know where I'm going. I'm not one that can look at a drone or a RC car and drive it coming at me, because the controls are all backwards. It freaks me out, so I got to have a screen. And then so that's probably the mode I use the most, which is basically just locking in GPS home, which is where I take off from, and then which is the default, and then going ahead and taking controls and flying it where I want to fly it. And then when I want it to return home, or I lose sight of it, or it runs out of runs low on battery, or it hits the distance limitations and gets out of signal range of your controller, it will automatically return home after probably 20-30 seconds. You'll start seeing the drone starting to pick back up with video and whatnot. Speaking of video, always use the SD card if you're going to be taking and downloading that video, or downloading pictures. Once you get to a certain distance, and I'd say that's probably 90 yards, 100 yards, so about 300 feet, what I would say is that camera recording and the photos get digitally distorted a bit, so you get blocky and choppy. And it's really because it's sending that video across the Wi-Fi, and so it's not able to keep up with a high refresh rate across that distance. So make sure you're always using your SD card, your micro SD card, because that will give you the best quality pictures when you're done, and there'll be no video distortion in those pictures, because it's writing directly off the 4K camera into the SD card. That doesn't help you while you're flying it, and you're getting this digital distortion out there. Just know that you are always recording to your phone when you're flying it, and taking pictures to your phone, but it's via the Wi-Fi connection. And then to get the clarity of the pictures and the Wi-Fi, you have to use the SD cards, the micro SD cards files. So you'll have to take those off. A note on that: I have not found a way currently, and it's probably because I'm using Apple iOS, is to take that micro SD card, put it in a USB adapter, plug it into my iPad, and download those without going through the download function on the Bwine app. So it's a little bit of a pain in the ass when we're doing that, but I'm assuming it's because of the iOS. I don't own a Windows machine in my house, thank God. But if I can get around one, or go to a friend's house, I might put it in there and see if I can get it to work. And then I'll do an update or make a comment update in this video log. Thank you for watching part 2 of the Bwine F7 drone review. Please be on the lookout for part 3, where we'll focus on the application.